created to deceive us? It didn't exist before. It was not born from the people who lived on that land. It was manufactured, designed by the same hands that divided Africa, erased our history, and renamed our mother's soil. The man behind it was called Alfred Sayer Mahan, a Western scholar from the deep state, who in 1901 came up with this term, not as a description of geography, but as a tool of power. He sat down and said, "This region will be called the Middle East," just like that, and the world accepted it. But what he truly created was confusion. Confusion that would separate a people from their roots and hide Africa's true boundaries. When they said Middle East, they drew an invisible border between Africa and her eastern lands. They made us believe that Egypt, Israel, Palestine, and Arabia were something else, something apart, something foreign to Africa. But look at the map. Look at the land itself. The desert does not stop at the Suez Canal. The earth does not change its skin when you cross that water. It is one continuous landmass, one body, the same mother. But they built the Suez Canal to be a knife, to cut Africa apart, to say this side is Africa and that side is Asia. They cut the mother in half and made her children fight over which side they belonged to. Before colonization, there was no Middle East. There was only Northeast Africa. There was only Alkebulan, the original name of our continent. That name carried power, identity, and unity. But the colonizers knew that to dominate a people, you must first confuse them about who they are. So they began to rename everything. They said Middle East instead of Northeast Africa. They said North Africa instead of Kemet, Nubia, and Maghreb. They said Sub-Saharan instead of Central and Southern Africa. Every name they gave us was a weapon, and every line they drew on the map was a wound that still bleeds today. And we accepted it. We began to repeat their words, to identify ourselves through their eyes. We began to see our brothers as foreigners. We began to believe Africa ends where the Suez Canal begins. But that is a lie, a well-crafted illusion. Israel is northeastern Africa. The land they call the Levant is African land. The soil, the people, the bloodlines, the roots. They are all connected to Alkebulan. Our ancestors traveled, traded, built, and lived across this entire region long before colonial borders existed. The Western powers understood something powerful. Geography shapes psychology. If you separate a man from his land, you separate him from his purpose. They didn't just redraw the maps, they redrew the minds of generations. They made Africans forget that they were once builders of empires that stretched beyond what we call Africa today. They made us believe the lie that Africa was small, weak, divided. But the truth is, Africa has always been vast, not just in land, but in spirit. This is why they guard those terms so carefully. Middle East, North Africa, Sub-Saharan. These are not just words. They are chains of the mind. Every time we use them, we reinforce their illusion. They didn't need to burn our maps. They made us worship theirs. But today, the awakening has begun. Africans everywhere are rising to correct the lies. We are turning the map upright again. We are learning that our history does not start with slavery, but with civilization. We are learning that our borders are not drawn by rivers or canals, but by our ancestors' legacy. And we are learning that the so-called Middle East is not a foreign land. It is our land, the cradle of ancient African bloodlines. Do you know the term Middle East was created to deceive us?